Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Yay! First video of 2021, and I'm so excited about today's video. So today's video, we are going to be discussing Oprah's Masterclass, the Tyler Perry episode. And I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do a video regarding Tyler Perry for the longest, and I just didn't know how I wanted to format it, right? But I know I wanted to give do a video giving him his flowers to kind of like balance out so many of the negative videos that are made about him on YouTube. And you know, recently Oprah Winfrey, or Oprah Winfrey's own network, put up some Masterclass videos, full episodes of Masterclass, and I watched the Tyler Perry one first, and it was so good. Like, I knew a lot about Tyler Perry, but it was just awesome watching him break down who he is at his core in his own words, to see him strip away and be so honest. It was an amazing experience. And the first Masterclass that I watched was Jay-Z's in 2011. And his actually was the very first episode of Masterclass as a whole. And when I watched that episode, I became like a Jay-Z super fan watching that episode. Like, I always enjoyed Jay-Z music, but after watching that episode, I started like loving Jay-Z more as an artist, as a businessman, as a human being, as a black man here in America. Like, that man, he knows what he's doing. He knows where he come from. He knows where he's going. And Jay-Z is everything. And Tyler Perry is too, right? So anywho, talk a little bit about Tyler Perry, and then I'll give you my take on Tyler Perry as a whole. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really have much criticism for Tyler Perry. I have one like criticism for you, Tyler Perry, if you come across this, and I'm gonna save it for the end because that's not what this video is gonna be about. But his Masterclass was definitely, an episode for the books, right? So let's get started. The episode starts off with Tyler Perry like realizing the moment that he had made it, and he, Oprah, and Tina Turner, they was watching The Color Purple play on Broadway, and they were all leaving out the back door. And as they walk out, you know, cameras and people are screaming out, Tina Turner, Miss Turner, Oprah, Miss Winfrey, and they were also screaming out his name. And Oprah, and that was his moment that he realized that he had made it, that they were screaming out Tyler Perry alongside Oprah Winfrey's and Tina Turner. So then he goes into his childhood, right? And Oprah comes on the screen and says that Tyler Perry always felt like he was a child of never because of the things that he had been going through, you know, that he experienced as a child. And he talks about how his personality in the area that he grew up in, you were either two things. You were a teacher or a preacher. And they used to always say that Tyler Perry would be a preacher because of his demeanor and the way that he talked. I thought that was very amazing because, you know, Tyler Perry does be preaching in a good way or whatnot. And then he talks about his mother. She was a very, she was a very compassionate, nurturing mother. And one time they were in traffic and she saw a bird, an injured bird on the road, and she got out the car and picked up the bird and took it home and nurtured it, nursed it back to health. And he talks about how that always stayed with him. Like, his mom had the type of spirit that no matter what she went through, she found joy in God. So, Friday and Saturday nights at home, his father, who was I think, in the words of Tyler Perry, a raging alcoholic, not to laugh, but his father was this raging alcoholic who would, you know, come home on Friday nights and get to drinking and go to wilding on Tyler Perry and his mom. And by that Sunday, his mother would find so much joy in going to church and laying all her burdens on the altar at God, and that really stuck with Tyler Perry. So Tyler Perry talks about how, you know, he was looking for a sign from God as a child to talk to him because his uncle Ronald, I think Ronald was a preacher. Let me try to find it. His uncle was a pastor. I believe his uncle's name was Ronald. I didn't write it down. But yes, his uncle was a pastor in the church. And Tyler Perry asked God to just prove that he was real by sending him little people. Now, Tyler Perry thought that the people on the television when he was growing up the people that was in the television were little people who could talk. And so he asked God to send him little people to prove that he was real. And so one day the neighbors across the street from them, they were moving out, and they brought over a 2-story birdhouse to them, to Tyler Perry. And inside the birdhouse was 2 parakeets named Pierre and Fifi, and they can talk. And Tyler Perry took that as the sign that he had asked God for to prove that he was real. And after that, he took that experience to let him know. He took that experience, right, to let him know that God was real, and he started seeking God and for confirmation in everything he did, which was awesome, because my aunt, she told me a story once about asking God to send her a rainbow to prove, you know, not to prove, but letting her know that her decision to leave her hometown was the right thing to do. And 7 days later, she received the rainbow as she was coming from work one day. And I always thought that was so amazing. And here Tyler Perry stated that was his confirmation, you know, those little people that could talk, and then continuously seeking out God and everything that he would do before he would do anything. That was really awesome to talk about. And then he goes on to leave home at like a young age, because his relationship with his daddy was fraught with peril. His dad, Tyler Perry told a story about some men breaking into the house, but I don't know, they didn't really expand on that, which I thought they would have. But then at the time, the men broke in the house before Tyler Perry was born. And you know, back then, if women in the 60s and beyond, if women were raped, they were shamed into not speaking, which was unfortunate. Because even now, like, a lot of women and men who are raped or abused sexually, they don't really like to speak on it, right? But I kind of felt like that incident had something to do with the way Tyler Perry's father treated him, because his father always singled out Tyler Perry to abuse growing up. And Tyler Perry was saying that, you know, he never understood why his father hated him so much. And he used to always question his mom, was that his father? And his mom would always say, you know, up until the day she died, I hate to tell you this, son, but he is your father. And so after his mother died, when Tyler Perry was 40, he went on and he did a DNA test against his brother. And the test came back as them being maternally related, but not paternally related. So Tyler Perry figured, you know, maybe he's not your father or he's not my father, right? So then he went and tested himself against his father, Mr. Emmett Perry. And come to find out, that wasn't his father. And Tyler was like, a weight was lifted off of him, because that man had treated him so wrong for so many years. He used to just beat Tyler Perry, single him out just to unleash his rage upon Tyler and his mother. And I thought that was very weird or crazy, because Tyler Perry was named after this guy. So even if the guy knew all along that Tyler wasn't his child, you still gave this baby your name and raised this kid up, right? And I don't know, I just felt like if you give a kid your name, that's your son. Like, that's your son, you know, or whatever. But it was just a weight lifted off of Tyler Perry to learn that. And he talked about the abuse. And I couldn't even write down so much of the stuff that he was saying about the abuse, because it was kind of making me emotional watching him on the Oprah Winfrey Show after his mom died, talking about the abuse that, oh, don't cry. Talking about the abuse that he experienced at the hands of his father. And it was tough. That guy had a really weird life, childhood. And like I said, Tyler Perry was named after this guy. That's what just blows my mind, that he was named after that guy, and that guy still treated him with so much vitriol. So, yeah, so Tyler Perry eventually leaves home, and he starts a play. You know, he writes a play at 20, and the play doesn't do it. 2021, he writes a play, and it doesn't do too well for 7 years. And then finally, May or March 25th of 1998, you know, he is called to, and somebody calls him and let him know that, you know, the play, he can open tonight, and it was sold out. And at the time this was recorded, I believe interview was recorded in 2017, 2018. He was like, from that day in 1998 till recently, he never had all of his shows have sold out then. But leading up to the sold out show, he was saying that, you know, he would ask God for signs and he would hear a voice say quit. So he would quit his jobs. The shows wouldn't do so good. Get another job, quit his job. The shows wouldn't do so good. So he would be spending like his rent money, his utilities to fund his dream, and they wouldn't do good. So he would be sleeping in his car, right, to fund his dream. And that night just so happened, you know, that night that he wasn't even expecting to do the show that night, and he did that show and he hasn't looked back since, right? Yeah, so 1998, after 7 years of struggling, that's when everything turned around. But then he mentioned how he started writing his plays was because he was watching the Oprah show, and there was an episode on there where Oprah talked about that it was cathartic to write things down, right? And he looked up cathartic, and I had to write it down too. And cathartic means providing psychological relief through the open expression of strong emotions. And catharsis is the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from, right? You know, therapy, purging, cleansing, relieving, right? And that's how he began to write. He said that he's just started writing down the things that he was feeling, and these characters and things like that would take on a life of their own. Now, it was interesting that he mentioned that because when I was probably 14, I saw an interview with Tyler Perry where he talked about that particular Oprah episode, which I couldn't find for nothing in the world. I wanted to see the episode, but he talked about that episode and about it being cathartic to write things down. And I had started writing when I was 9 or 10, like shortly after my mom left her husband and later divorced him. I started writing then, and it made me feel good, but I didn't have a term for it until I saw Tyler Perry talk about that years ago. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I've been doing, giving myself therapy all this time. And then I stopped because my dad came across some of my works and he kind of made me feel bad about some of the stuff I was writing. So I stopped writing for like a year or so. Then I started back. But that's definitely true. Like whenever you're feeling like sad about something, you write it all down. Maybe sometimes you might need to burn it, because I used to write I used to be wild in some of the stuff I used to write. But yeah, when it was interesting that he mentioned that, because I always say the same thing when I heard Tyler Perry say that made me feel good. Yeah, not made me feel good, but you know, that provided some insight of what I had been doing without having the words for what I had been doing that entire time. All right, when I write. And then he talks about, you know, throughout the series, he's dropping these gems, right? And I wrote down some of them, but I'm forgetting to say them aloud. But true gems, not overused gems like people like to say today. But he stated that anything that comes easy may not be as appreciated as much as the things that you work hard for, right? And he was saying that because, you know, it took him so long to get his plays off, right? And he appreciated that much more, but he don't know if he would have appreciated it if it had been easier, right? And then he mentioned, you know, how he want his son, and this was crazy, amazing, not crazy, but he mentioned the fact that he want his son to feel enough pain to be human, but not enough pain to where it cripples him. And I'm like, say that, Tyler Perry. You know, like, oftentimes we want to do more for our kids than our parents did. We don't want our kids to struggle. We don't want our kids to feel this and that and third. And you know, kids have to feel some things. They have to be aware of some things so that they are human, so they don't forget the humanity and they can have compassion and everything like that for others. But I thought that was really amazing the way he talked about that. And then he talked about like the fears that all the fears he have are for his son about being a black man here in America, which was also amazing to hear Tyler Perry say that. Like, Tyler Perry is a billionaire at this point, but he's still thinking about, he's still like a black man, right? He's not thinking of just he's wealthy. He still thinks like a black man. And I know it's maybe hard to understand what I'm saying, but you know, oftentimes when people pour, black or white, right, when they come into some money, I think they forget about that humanity that they had in them growing up. And I think Tyler Perry does a good job in remaining human and remaining down to earth, which a lot of people, I feel like when they reach a certain amount of, you know, monetary success, they kind of forget a lot of things. And that's why you have a lot of rappers out here just making, like, you know, silly remarks because they forgot how hungry they were back before. Not necessarily starving, you know, physically starving, but how hungry they were and all the things that they saw coming up. It was easy for them to move down the street and not see everything, you know, and to leave it behind. But anywho, he talked about that, and he also talked about forgiving his father. Like I said, his father used to dog walk Tyler Perry and his mother, and he was saying that, you know, this is what he said. He said it's okay to be angry, upset, but not okay to be bitter, and more harm comes to the host than the perps. And forgiveness is, yeah. Hold on, what I wrote down? Yeah. Anyway, he was saying that it's okay to be angry, upset, but not okay to be bitter, because more harm comes to you than the person who hurt you, and that forgiveness is for you and not for the other person, which that was pretty awesome. So when he said that, he talked about he forgave his father. He hasn't forgotten what his father done, and you know, he gives his father the exact same thing that his father gave to him. He doesn't beat his father, but he provides shelter and food to his father. His father doesn't have to worry about any bills, because when he was growing up, he was never hungry, and he never had to worry about a place to stay. But he withhold his love from his father much in the same manner that his father did for him. And you know, I almost said, you know, Tyler Perry, you can love that man and things like that, but too, you know, he's not bitter or anything like that. So how he handled it is appropriate in my eyes. The way he handles it, like, you know, you feeding this guy, and after what that man did to him, y'all make sure y'all watch it, because it was crazy. But after what that man has done to you, you know, you still being there for him. And he was like, also his mother asked him to look out for his father as well before she passed on to glory or whatnot. But he said that his father used to tell his mama, that boy ain't gonna do nothing but make you cry. He ain't gonna make you cry. And he was saying that one day after his show, his mother just broke down crying. Tyler Perry's mother broke down crying. And Tyler Perry went up to her and said, he always said I was gonna make you cry, but these were tears of joy and not the tears that Tyler Perry's father thought that he was gonna make. Oh, it was so powerful and amazing. And another interesting thing about Tyler Perry, which I don't think they covered in the show, like I said, Tyler Perry was named after his father, but Tyler Perry legally changed his name. Like, his name isn't Emmett Perry, so you know it had to be real. Like, you know it had to be real, because my daddy named me. And I don't know, like, what, I haven't experienced anything to the point that would make me change my name completely from Brittany Turner. You know what I mean? Like, I love my name, and I'm happy that my dad named him. So you have to know, it had to have been something traumatic for Tyler Perry to legally change his name from his dad. And he was a junior. You know, like, that means something to most men and sons to be named after their father, and it's a junior, right? So, yes, back to his son, when he talked about being a father and all his fears, all the fears that he has for his son, was very interesting, because I have two nephews, and I love them, two little boys to death. The names is Antonio and Logan. Tell him. Then he talked about his movies and things like that, and the criticism, and he made a comparison about two different critics can go to his movies, and they will feel two different things. One critic might give him a horrible review, and another critic may give him a glowing review, because the one who gave him a glowing review can relate to the things that he went through, while the other person can't relate or refuse to see the human inside of the stories that he's talking about. And he takes it in stride. That it reminded me of what Kenya Barrett said when the Black AF came out. You know, he said he can't just take the praise and leave all the criticism. You have to take them both. If you want one, you have to take the other. And Tyler Perry was very honest about that, but you could tell, like, it doesn't break him down, because he knows his audience. And even Oprah was saying in the video as well that Tyler Perry knows his audience and he serves his audience. And I believe Tyler Perry has said previously that he super serves his audience, right? Because he gives us everything we need. And that's one thing that I like about Tyler Perry, segue into my whole overall thoughts over Tyler Perry, is he super serves his audience, meaning he give us he give us movies, he give us shows, and he giving us that, but he also gives back to his audience, right? So he's doing not drive-bys, excuse me. You know, he's doing food drives. He's, you know, doing Secret Santa every year. He's doing, you know, I believe he's trying to build a shelter or something like that for at-risk youth in Atlanta. He really does super serves his audience in ways that, like, a lot of people on his level don't do that. For example, how he's always giving back to the community that supports him. A lot of people with money, excuse me, now I don't want to say with money, because I don't want to feel like I'm like looking at people's pockets and judging them for where they spend their money. But you know, a lot of people on Tyler Perry's level in terms of wealth, they don't really put money back into inner cities directly in a way that Tyler Perry does. You know, they'll send money over to Africa. They'll send their kids over to different countries in Africa, Mali and Malawi in particular, to go volunteer at orphanages over there. But they won't send those same children, you know, to group homes, to volunteer at group homes. And Tyler Perry is one of those people. He, you know, if he, you know, where his audience are, that's where he's donating money to, so it goes directly to them. And for, like, to my recollection, you know, he doesn't make people go through hoops and hurdles to get the things that he's giving to them. I know, like, just recently, you know, we're in a pandemic. You know, he was paying for groceries for people who was shopping during the senior hours. You know, other people may have been doing it, but I'm talking about Tyler Perry. And I thought that was so dope that he was doing that for those people over in Atlanta. Like, he truly does serve the people that comes out to support him. And it's just real dope, like I said, because you always hear about people going across seas to do for people over there, you know, paying for girls to go to be educated, you know, paying for girls' education over there. And you rarely hear about people doing the things that Tyler Perry does for his community, right? And I just have to tip my hat off to that, because he is like I said earlier, he still considers himself like a regular person, right? Like, even with the whole, and I shouldn't even bring it up, the whole Monique thing, he himself got on the phone to talk to Monique, right? He's a billionaire. He got on the phone to talk to her to say, you know, to apologize for where his part was in it and everything like that. That's really dope. Like, you're not going to get Warren Buffett on the phone to make an apology to you for something that he did that's harming you. You know, and I just think that's really dope of Tyler Perry. And his story, how he always talks about he's not begging for a seat at the table. He went out and built his own table. So there's another story behind that. There's a story, like, I believe it was House of Pains. Usually you would shoot a pilot and then they would send green lighted for more episodes. But, you know, Tyler Perry was like, he wasn't going to do it that way. He's himself, right? And so he shot 10 episodes of it, and he got it greenlit to be 100 episodes of the TV show, right, on TBS. And he was like, after that became the standard to have 10 episodes for the first season, and 10 and 90, I believe. And I can't really explain it because, you know, I don't really know how the movie TV industry work like that anyway. But I know he said something along the line of he developed it because of what he did, that most TV shows do the 10 and 90 standard now. But, you know, he always talks about building his own table. Now, mind you, I build my own table too, but I still want to know that I can go over there when I want to. Right? But yeah, that's what I have to say. And also, I know people that's in Tyler Perry movies. So, like, the Mike and Sheila characters, I know someone like them. I knew the young lady from The Marriage Counselor, was it Temptation? We all know. So I really feel like we all can see ourselves in, or for me, I know my family, let me say that, my family could always see themselves in one of Tyler Perry's plays because they were so realistic. Maybe it didn't happen exactly like that, but he did know who he was talking for. You could tell that he's been around women and men who experienced some things the way he wrote it, right? And the only criticism I have of Tyler Perry is the For Color Girls movie. He did a good job on it. I'm gonna give him that. He did a really good job on it because, you know, I need to listen to the commentary on that one day, matter of fact. But when I watched the movie, and I noticed that as the movie went on, like in the beginning of the movie, all the women were wearing the colors that they corresponded to, you know, orange, green, yellow, red, white. And as it went on, the colors got dingier and dirtier, right? Well, just dingier or darker. It wasn't as vibrant as before. So he did a good job of the movie, but my criticism is that there was a young black female woman director who wanted to write and direct the movie, and they went to Tyler Perry for funding, and Tyler Perry said the only way he would fund it is if the only way he would produce it if he wrote and directed it. And I always felt like that was really messed up, because that could have been that black lady's shot into mainstream and everything like that. I can't remember her name, but that's my criticism of Tyler Perry, that I always felt like he should have let that black lady who wanted to bring that who wanted to tell that story, I always felt like he should have let her do that. Right, but anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the episode. It is on the own YouTube channel. I'm gonna try to link it in the description box. Oh, and also check out my friend Joseph YouTube page. It's Blanton Boy TV. If you want to see some real dope vlogs and footage of the Tampa Bay area, definitely check him out. And also, for all my book girls like me, check out Diamond's Literary World. She has some really dope vlogs, and also she has an amazing voice. Like, I love to listen to her talk about books. And also check out Miss Kira TV. Yes, check out Miss Kira TV. Right now she's doing all these different fashion hauls, and they are so amazing. So definitely check them out. There, if I forget to post them in the link, just go to my channels, because they're on my channels that I follow. So definitely check out those people, because they very dope. But anywho, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.